For this next part of the tutorial, we're going to be covering global variable blocks, if statement blocks, and loop blocks. So essentially, all of the other general vjass blocks that you can work with. Now, in a vjass map, you can only have one global as variable block. But what vjass does is it allows you to declare as many as you want, and then after it parses everything and puts everything together, it combines them all into one globals block. And we can actually see this by me typing integer a and then an I. And up here we have our single globals block, and then here are all the globals. There's the integer a I typed, and then there's the end of the globals block. And here we have the triggers right there, so core, lesson 2, lesson 2, lesson 3, lesson 3, and so on. And as we saw, it follows the general pattern. It starts with the block and then ends with the block. And we can do if, end if, loop, end loop. Now, the GUI doesn't really have loops. It has sort of for loops. And we can look at that here. So for each integer a. But right there is the loop keyword. So there is where you see the loop that's in vjass. Now if we go new action if, the if in vjass follows this same setup. If then else. There are also else ifs. And I'm wondering if those are in. They are not. They're not in the GUI. And they also, for Boolean expressions, they have the equal to and not equal to, just like you see here. There's the double equal and the not equal. So it should be pretty familiar. If we go back here and we want to do the if statement, we need to start with if, then we have some sort of expression that we need, like we saw over here. So like triggering condition is equal to something, or ability comparison, or an or condition 1, condition 2. We need some sort of expression, so let's just say if true. It has to equate to a Boolean, and true is a Boolean, so that works. Then, so there's the then keyword. Do stuff, so this is the code that's actually run here. End if. And we can go ahead and save that. Oh. Okay, there we go. So if true, end if. Let's go ahead and make a variable here, like local integer I equals 6. So if I is equal to 6, call print hello. Else, call print I isn't equal to 6. And we can even go a little bit cooler here. I isn't equal to 6. So here I'm adding two strings together, and I'm converting that 6 to a string, and I'll just use I. So we can go ahead and run the map. So it displays hello, which is what we expected since I is 6. But now we change I to something like 3. Now it should display I isn't equal to 3. So I should have actually put a 6 in there. So how about local integer x equals 6, I equal x, I2s x. Now we'll display what we want to display. So I isn't equal to 6. There we go. Now I can change that around and it goes back to 6 and it displays and so on. Then we also have another thing called else if. And else always has to go last, so you'd have to put up here else if condition, so I equal to x plus 3, then call print hello 2, I guess. So if we make I equal 3, x plus 3 is 9, by the way. So whoops, I equal 9. It should display hello 2. So that is if statements in a nutshell. You can play plug whatever you want in here. And of course you also have access to the AND keyword, so AND I equal to 2. That will never happen unless x is 2. So, but you could do like something like AND x equals 6. That could happen, for example, when I is 6. Then print hello. And the AND keyword, as you probably surmised, this has to be true and this has to be true. Then you have the OR keyword. So probably want to do this for clarity. This and this, or I equal 1. How about that? So now if I is equal 1, it'll print hello. If I is equal 6, it'll print hello. If x is equal to 5, this will never be true. But if I is equal to 1, it'll still print hello because of this OR right here. And it looks pretty similar to the GUI because we still have the OR and the AND, so an OR and AND. The only difference with these, the GUI ones, is that they use an actual native to do it, and they bind dynamic functions together, which aren't very good to bind together because that's extremely, extremely, extremely slow and sad. And there's the OR native. So a Boolean expression is, this is a Boolean expression, this is a Boolean expression, this is a Boolean expression, this is a math expression, so is this. So those are expressions. And then you have the Boolean expression type, I guess, and those take functions. Those are functions that return a Boolean. And you have the condition native that converts it into a condition func, which is just a Boolean expression. Okay. And here's the filter, which is a filter function, which is a condition function, which is a Boolean expression. So they're kind of silly. You can use either one. I usually use condition. Most people use filter because it's less typing. Condition extends directly off of Boolean expression, and filter extends off of condition. So that's why I use condition. It's closer to a Boolean expression. Less stuff to go through. So those were if statements. The next thing we'll need to cover are loops. And as you probably surmised, use the loop keyword. So loop and loop. And what this will do is just repeat over and over again, go to the bottom, come back up, until it exits the loop. And to exit the loop, you need to use the exit when keyword. And right over here is, you guessed it, a Boolean expression. So like exit when I equal 5. Then we can do something like set I equal I plus 1. And so then this will loop through 4 times, from 1 to 5, I guess. 5 times. Whatever. And now if we did it out down here, it will display 2, 3, 4, 5. So let's go ahead and do that. Call print I2S, or I mean 2, 3, 4. Let's return right here. We don't really want to see this stuff right now, but let's keep the code for later. So we should see a 2, 3, 4. There it is, 2, 3, 4. And then we could do like set I equal to I plus 4, 5. And then it will loop forever until it crashes. Because this will never be true, so he'll never get to exit the loop. Alternatively, we can do something crazy like if I equal 5, then exit when true. That's kind of silly, but sometimes it's useful if you want to have other code in here and then you want to exit at the end of that code. You could also do return. That exits completely out of the function, but if that's all you want to do, then return's okay to use. So that's all there is about loops. You can put loops inside of loops. So you could do like set x equal 0, set x equal to x plus 1, exit when x equal 5, then you could do set I equal I plus 1, exit 1 I equal 5. And then this will run through this 5 times, so it'll iterate over here 5 times, it will iterate over this 3 times. 4, 2, 3, 4, or 4 times, I apologize. And so the total iterations then becomes 20 times, because you're iterating over this inner loop every time you iterate over this outer loop. So those are nested loops, and they can get pretty tricky and confusing, as you see here. And let's go ahead and display this. I'm going to lower it a bit more so that it doesn't get flooded. And I'm going to lower this one as well. So this will run the inner loop 3 times and the outer loop 3 times, and the inner loop runs 2 times every time. So I probably want to have labels there, don't I? So x plus I plus. Here we go. Now we can see it. So, it runs a little differently than I thought. Oh, because I put this below, didn't I, here? Should be right in between here. And let's go ahead and set that to 0 and go right in between here. Right before the exit. So x is 1, then x is 2, then it exits out of that inner loop, goes back to the outer loop. I1, now it goes back to the inner loop, resets, and so on. So it pretty much does what we expected it to do. Then we can have more inner loops inside of them, and so on. What nested loops are useful for are iterating over really complicated things, like an array of arrays of arrays. You can't really do those in vjass. You can do those in other languages, but you can do things like lists of lists. And list is a special data structure that's you have to code yourself and whatnot, but that's what they're used for generally. So there we go. And then you can have loops inside of if statements, obviously, and if statements inside of loops and whatnot. And oh yes, before I forget, you cannot have globalist blocks inside of globalist blocks. This will not work, nor does this really make any sense. So just know that you can't do that. And that ends this part of the tutorial.